when the drag queen story hour stuff started, everyone started saying, hey, this is grooming. And the immediate defense from the left was, no, they're just reading books. And you'd come out and you'd say, yeah, but drag queen performances are removal of clothes, accepting of cash on stage. It's very akin to bikini bars or stripping. And they'd say, it's just reading a book. Then they started doing all ages drag dance shows. And they say, it's just dancing, it's just dancing. And that's how they move you increment by increment to the point now where we saw in, I think it was San Antonio, where they actually had exposed fake breasts in front of children. They had men simulating sodomy. And then the craziest thing is there's a journalist on Twitter right now arguing with I think Taylor Hanson's name, saying, or is it Tyler? I don't know, Taylor, saying it didn't happen, you edited, it's a fake video, despite the fact there's a dozen of them. Now they're moving into denial. The craziest thing about this, and I want to give a shout out to Project Veritas, when they did, and give Project Veritas money, I mean that because they're a nonprofit and they rely on everyone's support for doing this. When they put out this video from Chicago, where the dean of students is talking about kink education for children in a school. Francis Parker School. I'm getting from the people I know on the left, they're saying, but Tim, it's just sex ed. And I'm like, no, hold on.
It's just.
Teaching children about reproduction when you think it's appropriate for them is very different from teaching them how to lube something for kink. That is something totally different, and that's what we're seeing with these all-ages drag shows.
I mean, that's why I made those podcasts back in October, November last year. I called them groomer schools. And it's been, I, of course, got blasted off of Twitter for this. Back on Twitter. Thanks, Elon. Don't cuck this up now. My gosh. So here I am, and I think somebody backstage owes me money because I said that. But anyway, what I did was I've just been proved right again and again and again. Okay, groomer. And the goal is this, again, this escalating. I said unconventional warfare. This is so important. I talked to Tim early this year. The first time I went on the show this year with Tim, I was like, listen, political warfare is the most important concept you've never heard of. Unconventional warfare, political warfare, this mid-level violence provocation is so critical to understand because they're giving you a choice. They put a drag queen, oh, it's just a story. Oh, it's just dancing. And what you're going to do is you're either going to give in, at which point they're going to enter into their generative themes educational method into living queerly, strategic defiance. This is straight out of their literature that they say is the real goal of drag queen story hour. We're going to leave a trail of glitter that will never come out of the carpets, the last sentence in that paper, talking about your kids' brains. And then either you give into it and they get to do that, or you go too hard and you mess up and they make a video of you looking bad, and then they start trying to smear you as an anti-groomer or as rising anti-LGBT hate. This is the thought-terminating cliche, so people don't think about it. Oh, that's bad. Don't think. Don't ask questions. Just stop and say the person who did that's bad. And the goal is to get you to give in so they get their way or overreact, and that's where I say drag Floyd. It's so important to understand that they want a drag queen to get attacked. And they want to make a huge amount of hay of it, and they want to create Summer 2020 again off of a drag queen or a trans person or something like this. Meanwhile, what are they peppering the environment with? This is called, in unconventional warfare, operational preparation of the environment. It used to be operational preparation of the battlefield. That's why the intelligence communities being involved in this is so critical. They know this stuff. And what are they doing? Oh, stochastic terrorism, stochastic terrorism, stochastic terrorism. Everybody who talks about this is a stochastic terrorist. It's only a matter of time till there's violence. And what do all the articles do? They wrap it up. They're like, oh, James Lindsay, Tim Pool, Jack Posobiec, all these people, they're saying groomer. Marjorie Taylor Greene saying groomer. Lauren Boebert, groomer. These people are going to cause violence. They're going to have their stochastic terrorism. And then what are they going to do? Oh, and Elon Musk let them all back on Twitter. So then they're going to get control back of the media so they can keep control of the dialogue and of the narrative. Do you see that there is a strategy? There is a plan. They have a plan. This can be beaten just by calling it out ahead of time so they look like jerks when they do it.
They're going to try to get control.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, of course. And they may or may not get it. But if you don't know that this is happening to you, you're standing in what they might call the wizard circle with a spell cast on you. Don't know what's going on.
How can you say they're trying to get control? They removed Trump from office.
No,
by the way, on his watch.
With Twitter specifically. I'm saying Elon Musk too.
Elon Musk, they're going to blow out Elon Musk.
That's what I'm saying.
100%. You think he's over there in Qatar begging for money because all the advertisers are cutting him off? He's bleeding cash. He said today, that Twitter could be bankrupt by May.
Or since May, it's been heading towards bankruptcy.
Since May, heading towards bankruptcy. The thing's bleeding $5 or $7 million a year?
A day.
Excuse me. Yeah. They're in control. They're in control right now.
Fair point.
The administrative state controls the federal government. It's far bigger and in more parts of our life than anybody ever imagined.
And you know the
Leviathan, and it's got to be confronted. You can't confront it with half measures anymore. You have to take it on. That's why you got to choke it down and say, hey, We're going to zero the FBI. The FBI gets no money whatsoever. Zero. Okay? The Department of Justice, look at this.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Preach.
And the ATF, and the DEA.
I know we're at the Tim Pool show with the great co-host, but this is a relatively conservative audience, and they're cheering to defund the FBI because they understand the FBI is the modern American Gestapo.
Defund everything and the Parks Department. Specifically the Parks Department.
I'm concerned about...
Anyway, I just wanted to add one more single point about, because this latest trip by Elon Musk is also very telling with the optics, with him being seen with Jared Kushner, the guy who, of course, lobbied against Trump's very populist policies, the guy who, of course, advocated for the bombing of a sovereign country and got it done, the guy who, of course, negotiated better weapons deals for Saudi Arabia. He was there with him. So that kind of brings up to the point what Bannon was making here, that there is a possibility that there is some bigger money moves being made here.
Well, for sure. You said earlier, Steve, just a minute ago, that the administrative state controls the government, but I wonder where they get their money. The entire government needs money.
The Federal Reserve.
And where does the Federal Reserve get their money?
They hit a thing and create it.
Well, they get it from the Swiss bank, the Bank for International Settlements. It's a Swiss bank that deals out to all these Federal Reserves around the world. And so we're basically being run by this global banking cartel at the moment. Not totally, not psychologically.
But remember, the Federal Reserve, as the head of the cartel, just hits F9 and creates it. Okay? They are putting you, everybody in this audience under 35 years old is nothing more than a Russian serf. You don't own anything and you're not going to own anything.
But you'll be happy.
You'll be happy. They give you a little bit of credit and they put you on the wheel of samsara like a hamster, right? You just spin and you maybe get a little bit more. But right now, even family formation is later because it's tough. It's tough for a couple even to make it. They've taken, what, $13.5 trillion of net worth out of this economy, out of our middle class and working class in the last 9 months. The Federal Reserve, here's the scam. The Federal Reserve just creates it. Just creates it. It's not backed by any bonds. They can't sell bonds to Japanese insurance companies or the Chinese. Nobody buys it. They call monetize the debt. That means it's on you are the full faith and credit of the United States. They create it. And the administrative state, they'll take all of it they can get. How do you think we got $31 trillion on the Treasury, $9 trillion on the Fed, another $30 trillion on Social Security and Medicaid, and another contingent liabilities of $100 trillion? Because the administrative state has a funding mechanism. It's called the Federal Reserve. We have to end the Fed. We should not have, if you want freedom, from the founding of the country into the founding of the Federal Reserve, almost the entire 19th century was about populism and the fight over currency and the definition of money and who created it. And they stopped that because they realized the populist movement was starting to get traction with William Jennings Bryan and others. Right? After Andrew Jackson and Lincoln being a nationalist, they said, we got to stop that. Okay? The way they stopped it is the Federal Reserve. We have to take down the administrative state, we have to grab the Federal Reserve by the neck and choke it down. Right now, it's owned by, do you understand your currency's owned by 31 banks, 31 prime brokers own the Federal Reserve, create it and make money off it, and you live like a pauper? This can't happen. We need a revolution in this country. And this revolution's got to go. This revolution's got to go to the railhead of where the money is. We got to take control of the Federal Reserve and choke down the administrative state. And anybody that's not on that program is nothing more than controlled opposition.
We almost had that. And Tim, you were on the front lines of this, and you talk about this really well. But let me just kind of hand it off to you in a sec, because I'd love your thoughts. The Occupy movement saw it correctly in one way and incorrectly in another way. Tea Party movement was happening almost simultaneously because there was a series of decisions that were made by Hank Paulson, Timothy Geithner, Ben Bernanke, all after the '08 crisis. They could have allowed the system to recorrect, not put in all this fake money, but they made a decision, and they knew exactly what they were doing. Modern monetary theory, baby, $800 billion of stimulus, which used to be a lot of money, and we're going to engage in a decade-long sugar high, and the only way we're going to end is in a currency reset. Bernanke, Hank Paulson, Timothy Geithner, 3 former Goldman Sachs guys, by the way, knew exactly what was happening. Tea Party movement saw it through a conservative lens. Too big of government, cut the taxes, we don't like it. Occupy saw it through more of a left-wing lens. They were both seeing the same thing, said it differently. Trump was the only candidate to be able to capitalize. You might disagree, Tim.
A little bit. So How did I end up at Occupy Wall Street? I was on 4chan, and there was something called Operation Empire State Rebellion, which had nothing to do with left or right. It was hacktivists, and it was, I don't know, just random people on 4chan who were saying like, hey, you know, we've got an issue with what's going on with the big bailouts, our lives, we're being screwed over, the economy's in the gutter. And so that somehow merged with a handful of leftists who were organizing some kind of Occupy Wall Street. When I go down there for the first time, I was there within the first couple of days, there was nobody there. There was a handful of people standing in the rain. But that next weekend, which was the second weekend of Occupy, I saw old people with American flags. An old couple sitting on a couch with an American flag behind their back. They said they were conservatives. We all saw many libertarians. I met Luke down at Occupy Wall Street. The problem is, I think a lot of the people on the right immediately assumed that it was like a leftist, liberal, or something wrong. And so what happens? That first weekend is big. Second weekend is bigger. But people who have jobs, people who are conservative and libertarian were like, I've got to leave and I've got to go home. And the only people who were able to stick around were Marxists, trust fund kids, well off. And so the left ended up taking everything over. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.